cities. To live there long I did commit. But rather than Minnesota nice, the people there treat me like shaving cream. Be nice and clean, shave every day and you'll always look keen.
Hello everybody, this is Paul B, and I'm here to tell you about my totally free Noisy Neighbor drum kit. And I think this is, if this isn't the most unique drum kit out there, I'm not sure what would be. But I can tell you one thing, every sound in this kit has a story behind it. And if you know what the story is, these sounds are going to take on a significance, I think, that you just won't find in any other drum kit. Certainly, obviously they do for me. Because these sounds represent the noise that my neighbors forcibly injected into my home without my permission for 3 years. And in the end, this noise ended up absolutely burning my life completely to the ground. Not just the noise, but combined with official apathy where the landlord would not enforce the prohibitions of noise in the lease, the police would do nothing, the city would do nothing, the state would do nothing. Nobody anywhere in the state of Minnesota did anything to stop this noise. And as you can see below, I put a couple quotes in here where those authorities try to explain what this noise is. The problem is they never actually heard it, because even though I invited them over to listen to it and such, they either didn't, or in the case of my landlord, he only came over a couple of times, maybe 20 minutes, a half hour after I asked him to, where the perpetrator had already left and he didn't hear anything. So, as you can see from the quotes, they either accuse me of being hypersensitive to noise, or in the case of the police, and you gotta wonder if this guy ever even went to grade school, he's somehow attributing 3 years of this noise in this drum kit to one neighbor putting up a Christmas tree. Like I said, there's a story behind these sounds that is unlike anything you've ever seen before. Please visit my website, minnesota.com, to read about the story, because I wrote about it in depth and I profile each of the perpetrators in depth with other samples that you won't find in this kit. You can hear it in context as well. You can hear what the noise sounds like in real life. But I want to tell you about the individual sounds in here to the extent that I can. There's 612 audio samples in here. I categorize them the best I can, but I have to be honest, as you would expect, it's pretty arbitrary to tell the difference between a bang and a boom and a bump and a thump and a whomp and a thud. So, you know, categories like that they're not the same thing. They do have a qualitative difference, but it was my judgment, so just go through them and take a look. The sounds originated just as you would expect from noisy neighbors, banging, pounding, smashing, you know, hitting the walls. God knows what they were doing. But I want to look at some of the other categories to explain where they came from. The barking dog, it's just one barking dog actually. The house behind my bedroom across the alleyway, 2 or 3 years ago they got a dog, they threw it in the backyard and apparently never paid attention to it ever again, and the poor thing just barked and howled all the time, and I feel really bad for it, but the fact is it bothered at least, probably I would estimate, 50 people in the immediate vicinity every night from about 7 until 11 or midnight, often during the day. It just barked all the bloody time, and it obliterated any hope I had of recording anything, really, because as soon as I'd set everything up, the dog would start barking. But most of these noises deal with my immediate neighbors inside my apartment building. There are some environmental ones, like the barking dog. You'll see also trains. Planes. Sirens. There's some environmental noises. motorcycles were especially horrific. These kids in the house next door outside my other bedroom window took an interest in motorcycles in 2009, and they had a choice. They could either drive 50 feet in one direction and hit the road, or they could drive an eighth of a mile down an alleyway the other direction, right in between everybody's bedroom windows. Can you guess which one they chose? So the sounds you hear in the motorcycle section, imagine 3 in the morning hearing that. It doesn't even matter what time of day. The noise is so obnoxious, it's inexcusable. Just incredibly low class to rev those motorcycles past people's bedroom windows like that. Let's see, car starts. Car starts were exclusively the gangstas. Those are the neighbors who moved into the apartment below mine for the last year. Prior to that, there was one guy who lived there almost the entire time since I moved in, and he was quiet as a mouse, and he always told me that he didn't even know I was there because I was quiet. The gangstas were not quiet. They started their car many times each day, and their car was loud, and they would leave it running for up to 60 minutes, up to an hour, right outside my bedroom window. Down below you'll see another category, horn honks, which goes with that. Again, the descent of this building into ghetto status was not pleasant. Combinations is just, it's kind of like bangs, bumps, thuds, whumps, but they came in a combination naturally. So I kept them together because they had a rhythmic quality to them that you might be able to use. Feel free to separate them out, of course, if you'd prefer to use this. But they're things like, you know, someone drops something and then it bounces, so boom, 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 that kind of thing. Crashes, they're not cymbals, they're just where things kind of crashed somewhere and filled my apartment with the noise of that. Door pulls goes with slams over on the other side. The neighbor immediately next to me, and it was the only neighbor who was immediately next to me in the whole building because of the way it was set up. She was incredibly violent, just in the passive-aggressive sense. If you talk to her, she's like, "Oh yeah, you betcha," you know, that Minnesota nice bullshit. She was the most violent, repressed, violent person I think I've ever seen. Everything she touched was violence. Just, she couldn't do anything quietly or without injecting incredible force and energy into it. I mean, she couldn't eat a cheeseburger without sounding like urban warfare. So the door pulls are when she would open the foyer doors outside my door or her own door right next to mine. It was very violent. Door rattles was different. You know, we had the outer door to my apartment, and we also had 2 doors inside the apartment. We had bathroom and the bedroom door. The noise that these people would make was so violent, it would shake everything, and whether I heard the noise that caused it or not, it would often just cause my door to start rattling. Either for no reason or because I heard a big bang right beforehand. But it was annoying as hell because I'm just sitting in my apartment, minding my own business, and someone's injecting enough energy into my home to force my doors inside to move around and bang and rattle like that. Drawer slams are just what you would think. Obviously the noisy neighbors were not any quieter when they came to opening and closing their drawers. They would slam them. Very low class. Drops was only from the people who lived above me, and in the 3 years that were a real nightmare, there were 3 different tenants up there. I call them the upstairs noise triumvirate. The first one I call the foot stomping bitch. The second one is Muffy and the leech. And the third one at the end, who really ended up destroying everything for me, just destroying my entire life, was I called the jackass. These people would just drop things on the floor all the time. I don't know how. It's not like they're klutzy, they just don't give a damn. I mean, in the 8 years I lived in that place, I dropped things accidentally on the floor as much as these people would do in a week. there's no other way to explain it. These people just didn't care. They were just so sloppy that if they dropped heavy items on their floor a dozen times in a day, they didn't care. It didn't even occur to them that someone below might not enjoy that. Even after I told them about it and very politely asked them to stop, it didn't happen. Foot stomps was another one I had to deal with that was among the worst things because it just happened all the time. I mean, these people would pace their floor. I don't get it. On my website, I showed that the size of my apartment was the size of 4 cars parked right next to each other, and yet these people somehow could pace back and forth across the floor for 4, 6, 8 hours a day, every day, and stomp their feet the whole time. I don't get it. I couldn't pace the floor in such a small area if I tried to. I would get so bored so quickly. I don't get it. Furniture slides. Again, those come from the upstairs noise triumvirate. All 3 of them had a habit of sliding furniture across the hard kitchen floor. I don't get that. I had to move furniture from time to time. I would pick it up and move it, or I would go get some help. Only if I was moving it a short area would I push it and slide, and even then I would do it slowly so it didn't make a lot of noise downstairs, but the people upstairs were not so courteous to me, as you can hear in these samples. Loopables is probably the most fun group in this drum kit. Those are things that had a rhythmic pattern, and I trimmed them so that if you repeat them over and over and over again, they loop. The problem is I didn't have any way to calculate the beat per minute, so they're not real loops set up with BPM and such, but they're a good start. So I recommend that you take everyone in the loopables and just play them over and over, and you'll see what I mean in the sense that they create a rhythmic pattern. The miscellaneous noises were just that, miscellaneous sounds and things that happened that I only had 1 or 2 samples of, so I didn't want to create a category for them. There's a lot of good stuff in there too.